What's up? What's up, everybody? What's up? Another Joe's assessment. Today we're going to be talking about deadly force policy. The name of today's show is Deadly Force Policy. When the officer meet certain elements to use deadly force, according to police policy and procedure. I have some videos that we're going to go through. We're going to talk about deadly force policy and how whether the officer's actions was consistent with policy. Despite what a lot of people believe, right, the actual training for deadly force policy is actually to save a life. First and foremost, the officer's duty is to preserve life at all costs. I know we've been seeing a little different depending on the incident, where officers just run in. You would think, if the primary goal is to preserve life, why you run in and use deadly force? So these are the things that we're going to talk about. Deadly force policy. So let's look at the first video and we're going to have a little discussion about it. Go ahead, Dave.
Hot stop in progress. Get on the ground! Let me see your hands! Do not reach for it! 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 Put your hands out! Put your hands out! Put your hands out! Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands!
I can't see what it is. He's got a small black object in his hand.
Saw a black object. Put your arms out! Put your arms out! It's a knife.
50 call 2, multiple shots fired. Subject's down. He does have a knife, it appears now. We're able to locate. He's still not complying with commands.
Crawl away from us! Crawl away from the knife! Crawl away from the knife!
Jason, I'll come with you, man.
Lethal.
I'm with you.
Do not move! Do not move!
Hey, let's go. Hold that car! Hold that car! Clear the car!
I don't have that, maybe. Do not move. Do you understand? You're not in charge here, big dog. Do not move.
I can't breathe! Let's roll him to the side. Hey, let's
Who has a gun?
let's roll him onto his side. With my arm. That's what I got. Just hurting. Yeah, left pocket. Oh, please help me.
Where's the gun?
I don't have one. I swear to God, my mom and dad never said, please, I don't got nothing. Just keep breathing, all right? What's your name, dude?
Eric.
Eric?
He's got a wallet. You got a wallet, Eric? Yeah. Okay.
Hey, let's start taping this off. You got it. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Please take the handcuffs off me. It hurts someone.
Your handcuffs are not coming off, big dog.
Okay, yeah, la verga. Just keep
stay
breathing.
with us. Stay with us.
Just check over here on the ground. Just stay
You're
with
good,
us.
dude.
Just keep talking, all right?
Ambulance is coming. The fire did. No. Did he fire?
Just stay with us.
Stay on,
man.
bud.
You can see I only had a gun. I mean, I had no gun. I had a knife.
Okay, so everybody's seen that video, right? Let me tell you, let's break it down. First, we got to understand the elements of deadly force, right? Let's understand the elements of deadly force. 3, the officer's life or the life of someone else, and there's no other options available to actually save that life. That threat is so high that someone's life is about to get be taken, the officer is instructed to use deadly force by policy. You have to hurry up and use deadly force to prevent someone's life from being taken. And there's no other options. Keyword, no other options. So when we start talking about deadly force, right? Options, the training tells you to find other options if possible. So it's very important that you understand that, because a lot of people look at these videos and they go, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that. You got to understand something. Policy says if you are allowed time to find other options before you take a life, then you must do that. You got to find other options, because taking a life is supposed to be the final and last resort, and there's no other options. So it's very important for you to understand that. During training, you're told if you have the opportunity to have cover and distance, first and foremost. Looks like a pretty standard high-risk felony stop. You see the distance, you see how far they away, you see how they're behind a vehicle. You got one officer in between the car and engine block. They tell you to find cover. They tell you to have distance. What that does is allow you to assess. They'll tell you in a minute, we don't want to make split-second decisions if we don't have to. When you make split-second decisions, that means that somebody's life's about to be taken, and try to avoid split-second decisions at all possible. So that's why they train you for the distance, for behind cover of a vehicle. And the reason why is like, I want to be able to assess, give more time to find other options. Perfect distance behind vehicle. The officer gets out and he comes to the right side, the passenger side, and you just see him start shooting. They blared out, and tells you multiple shots. They blared out the actual fire for what? They just trying to be, I guess, sensitive when it comes down to the actual shooting. So we're going to roll with it because we don't want our video to be restricted. So that's why it just says multiple shots was fired when you see the actual posting saying multiple shots are fired. So they come around. The guy's actually bending down. They tell the guy to get on the ground. He's bending down. And they just started shooting. The problem that I have with that is no officer there has identified a threat at all. If you notice, right, that the officer, once they actually was on top of the subject and they was trying to, he was already shot and they was already trying to figure out what was going on, you hear one officer say, where's the gun? And the subject said, I don't have a gun. Then another officer came and said, where's the gun? Nobody identified a gun. And then another officer, the third officer, he says, how many times did he shoot? And then the guy says, I don't have a gun. I didn't shoot anything. So what are you talking about? That tells me, right, that there was no threat, right, that was identified by no officer there on scene. So we have officers utilizing deadly force, right, where they haven't met the elements of a threat high enough to use deadly force. People will make the argument, they seen something, but they didn't know what it was. You have to identify what that threat is before you can't guess. Because if you guess, this is exactly what happens. Training tells you to get that distance away, to give you time. At the end of the day, we all find out after all the rounds were shot that he actually had a knife. The distance away, no imminent threat exists at that distance with a knife. So deadly force was not used correctly. It was not a justified use of deadly force. Regardless of whether he had a knife, where he's going to pick up and throw a knife over 40 feet away and stat, like that's just not happening. You got these guys behind vehicles, the distance away. You're trained to do that so you can have and find other options. You can sit back and you can kind of wait, have him at gunpoint. You see anything? I don't see nothing. You see anything? No, I don't see nothing. You start giving commands. He's not listening, but you can't just use deadly force because the subject's not listening. You have to be able to identify that threat and then respond to the threat. That scene, not one officer identified a threat. So this was a prime example of deadly force was not justified. This is exactly a prime example. So when you see these videos, you see these incidents on scene, don't listen to anybody else. You could tell, because you need to be thinking. You need to be thinking like, listen, was there imminent danger to loss of life at the time the subject pulled, the police officer pulled the trigger? You have to be able to explain that. The officer has to be able to say, yeah, I seen a gun, he was turning, I was in fear, because we all heard it, I was in fear of my life, right? that was not a I'm in fear of my life scenario, because no officer was able to explain what the threat was. So when we start looking at deadly force, I need you guys to look at it through the policies aspect and understanding when an officer used deadly force. Because a lot of people will say, well, you couldn't see his hands. The reason why they tell you to be that far, just because you probably won't be able to see somebody's hands. You got to give more time to see what that threat is and identify that threat and how you're going to proceed with that threat. The distance was perfect on the distance. They was behind vehicles. They didn't follow the training. So that was horrible. That was definitely a horrible example of when to use deadly force. We're going to go on to the next video. Let's check out the next video when we start talking about deadly force. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, bud. It's okay. Come here and talk to me. Come here. The ground for me. Lay down on the ground. Power 3, I have the subject. He's on the positive. He's on the south side, west of one of the. I need you to drop the knife. You have to. I'm gonna shoot you. Power 3, he's still.
Subject's running. Astronaut walks running.
Unit 7, 1097, 7.
Need to block off traffic.
Call 329.
We need to block off traffic at the intersection of Buena Vista and Pensinger.
That's the one on this.
Hey, bud, come back here! Turn off the siren. Stay right there, bud. He's got us drop it, bud. You have to drop it. No one's gonna hurt you, even if you want us to, bud. We're gonna get you help, but we gotta do it a different way. Drop the knife now. Yes, we do. You gotta drop it. We're gonna get you some help, but you gotta work with us. I need you to lay down the knife. Lay down the knife, bud. Who's got the lock?
Be able to talk to you and figure out what's going on.
What do you have? Do you have less lethal? You got lethal? Watch your backdrop. Do you have less lethal or lethal? I need you to go less lethal if we can. Stay there. Drop the knife. You have to drop it so we can get you some help.
R9127.
You have to drop it.
Portions of the intersection are still unblocked.
We need northbound and southbound Buena Vista shut down. At least a block on each direction.
Find your relief from back pain, neck pain, migraines, and more at The Joint Chiropractic.
Meteorologist Chesley McNeil, weekdays on 11 Alive Morning News.
Drop the knife. Drop it. I'm less lethal. It's lethal. Bud, you have to drop it. Your dad does not. Less lethal first. We're not going to shoot you. You understand that? I don't care how much you ask. We have to get you help a different way. Stay there. Put the knife down now. We're going to, but you're going to put the knife down. You have to. You have to. We are not going to shoot you. You understand that? We're going to get you help, but we have to do it a different way. No one wants to get hurt. You understand that, right? You got the launcher? Mally, can you move around to my side? Can you move around here?
You're gonna be fine.
You're going to be fine, bud. We're going, no, don't do it.
Hey, go ahead and
Don't do it.
Dress.
Do not do it. Less lethal. Launcher and less lethal. Nobody has guns. We're not going to do it. We need you to go our way. We have the right way to do this, but you've got to drop the knife. Please drop it. I'm asking you so we can help you. Drop the knife. Please drop it. I'm asking you. Down. He's down. Get knife.
The following body-worn camera footage is from the involved officer who discharged his firearm one time.
242 to 1600. 20 Fletcher.
Okay, so you guys see, if you know, as an instructor, right, we would have to put scenarios on, and we had to run officers through scenarios called stress week. We try to make it as realistic as possible, and if you don't get it right, you time and time again, you'll do it over and over again. So when I look at this video, I look at excellent command, one person talking. How many times we've seen multiple officers yelling and talking? How many times we've seen multiple officers screaming? Everybody's trying to rush in. This female officer did an amazing job. She had a perimeter to where it was distance away. She was letting him know that, look, we're not trying to kill you. We don't want to kill you. We're not going to kill you. She kept reminding the guys, because this is a high stress situation. She kept reminding the guys that, look, less lethal, less lethal. We're going to use the taser. We're not going to kill this guy. We're not going to kill his kid. We're not going to kill his kid. This was a prime example of exactly how you will handle a situation like that. It couldn't have been I hope they take this tape and they use it for new recruits, use it for in-service training. This is exactly how you want officers to respond. You want them to respond to a call like this with the mindset of saving a life, saving a life. You know, at the academy, a lot of the older officers, they would say, leave that crap academy, right? Leave it. Your training starts from now. It's a different kind of training that we're gonna have on the street. We gotta show you how it's done. And it's totally different from what you learned. And it's a lot more aggressive. It's taking lives. It's actually costing taxpayers billions and billions of dollars. So I like the fact that that one female, she did an amazing job. Like, this was the actual best training scenario tape that you can possibly have. Straight command, reiterating to the guys on there, least lethal. We're going to tasers. We're not going to kill this kid. Just imagine this kid was going through some type of mental breakdown, right? If one of your loved ones, your children, it could happen to anybody, especially college kids. You know, they have parties, people throwing all type of drugs and drinks, and your kid can have a trip. It can bug out. If your kid bugs out, this is the type of officer you want responding to that particular incident, because you know she's going to do her damnedest to actually save this kid's life. A lot of people just like to throw the fault on this kid. This kid is 16 years old. You know, 16-year-olds, they can be going through a lot of issues depending on the environment, their upbringing. You never know. But the trained professional, she did an amazing job. And this is what you want to see when you start talking about serving a community correctly. Not all cops are bad, but the ones that are messing it up, taking lives and abusing, not following training, we need to remove those. Officers like this, we definitely need support. And hats off to this female and her crew, because this 16-year-old was able to live to see another day. I appreciate that. And let's go to the next video. Dave, we got another video, right? Well, until Dave links us up with his next video, anybody got any questions? Anybody got any comments? Because what we seen was outstanding police work here. You had a female who really cared about this 16-year-old, and I really believe if it wasn't for her, we might have a different outcome. Because you first seen officers had their weapons in their hands, and then all of a sudden she told everybody to pull back. She told everybody to go to least lethal. Everybody went to taser. It was amazing. I really, really, truly appreciate her showing exactly how police work really looks like.
At about the same time, the bus's forward-facing camera shows Mr. Vespoli walking over towards the patrol Tahoe in front of the bus. He opened the driver's side door, got in, and closed the door. The officer noticed this and ran out to stop Mr. Vespoli from stealing the police vehicle. As the officer left the bus, his body-worn camera fell off of his uniform, so he was unable to reactivate it. Once the officer got to the curb, he stepped on the running board of the Tahoe. With his service weapon drawn, he extended his arm into the driver window of the police Tahoe. Mr. Vespoli began to drive with the officer standing on the running board. That is when the officer-involved shooting occurred. Here's the incident again. Please note that the audio from the bus camera is slightly delayed.
You see how the language of this representative of the police officer, the officer was standing on the running board. No, he took and placed his foot on the running board, right? His other foot was on the concrete. Not one time was his whole body on that running board. But you got to understand something, right? The language, the narrative that they want to give is the officer's life was in danger, right? At risk of being lost. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe. We talked about the elements earlier. Someone's life or the life of the officer or someone else's life was up at that moment. The officer pulled the trigger, an imminent danger of being lost. Not what happens, what you think is going to happen later on. You can't shoot based on what you think is going to be what's going to happen later on. It has to be solely based on that current second. The officer pulls the trigger. Law enforcement deadly force policy says at that minute, that second, the officer pulls the trigger, someone's life is about to be taken. And the only way to prevent that life from being taken, you use deadly force and pull the trigger. And there's no other options. First of all, every officer knows that you're supposed to secure your vehicle because you get caught up, your vehicle gets stolen. That's your business, that's your property. You have to secure it every time you leave. You got so much equipment in there, you can get in trouble big time for not securing your vehicle. You must secure your vehicle. When I was on a job, I would have two keys. I would put one on my gun belt, and then I would just leave the other one in the car. When I jump out, I'll automatically hit the lock and close it. So if I had to hurry up and get back, I would just unlock the door and just go in and put the key. Every vehicle always had two keys. When I was coming up in the police department, I would just lock. I remember one time supervisors showing up at a scene where it was multiple officers, right? They went to the car and just started seeing who left their door open. And somebody left the door open and they got written up. It's very important that all officers lock and secure their vehicles when they leave. You can't leave your vehicle unattended and unlocked. And that's exactly what he messed up at. So for those of you saying this was wrong, you're 100% right. In my eyes, there was no imminent danger of someone's life being lost at that second. Not what's going to happen later on, not beforehand. At that second, there was no imminent danger of someone's life being lost. Someone said it was a crime against property, not person. Even if it was against person, still, unless his actions rose to a threat level that someone's life's about to be taken, you still can't use you're still not justified to use deadly force. And so that officer, all the way around, leaving your door unlocked, and then someone jumps in it. That's your bad. You had full control over your vehicle when you got out. You're supposed to lock your door. Then he goes back as he sees someone jump in his vehicle. He puts his left foot on the running board, and his right foot was still standing on the side of the curve. He just started shooting as the person just drove away. There was no imminent danger of someone's life being lost at that current moment. Just think policy now. Everybody has policy. You got to think policy in your mind when we start talking about deadly force. None of that existed. None of it. So this was a bad shoot all the way around. You see the narrative already trying to be spent. The officer was on the running board, and he was in fear of his life being lost. Listen, anybody can see that video that officer's life was not in imminent danger. So, look, we did 3 assessments. I love you guys for supporting me. You know that I'm not just on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and just speaking and educating you. I'm in the community. We do food drives. We do back to school. I just recently received a request today. I got about 10 kids in a high school, and then the prom is coming up. And you got about 10 kids who don't want to go to prom because they can't afford the suit, the shoes, the hair. It's a lot. It's a poor community, poor school. So I'm doing everything I can to try to do a little bit of fundraising and see if we can get these kids to prom, because everybody should, in high school, have that experience of going to a prom. I have my Cash App pinned on the screen. So whatever support you guys can give, it is greatly appreciated. I have a nonprofit. So if you need the nonprofit numbers to do the write-off, be more than happy to send it to you. Just DM me. But I truly believe in that. I'm in a situation where God has blessed me, and I'm constantly trying to bless others less fortunate. So please help me bless these 10 kids, and the Cash App's on the screen. And thank you for the support, and I'll see you guys next time. Please be safe out there.